All right. Well, I guess first of all, um, it was a little bit disappointing last year the way recruiting ended. We've had this conversation before, and looking back, it's kind of, to me, I know a lot of people like to do that. I think it's kind of irrelevant because there's a whole lot of stuff going on at USC right now that wasn't going on a year ago, and but just after the last signing day, you guys added some really really talented football coaches and support staff. I mean, it's really impressive. Was there a change in your strategy from 2019 to 2020 for the 2021 class? I mean,
I think when you bring in the coaches that we did and the support staff that we did and just the overall support to our recruiting efforts, it changes the energy of how you recruit, and it makes everybody turn up the notch a little bit. From my end, from a leadership standpoint, from Coach Helton's end, like we changed our strategy because of all this new energy and who we felt like we could go get, because everybody was all in, and the culture of recruiting was really strong, and we knew that we could capitalize on it. I don't want to say, what happened previously, but when we had this staff and we looked at what we could accomplish with this 21 class and the goals that we set and the strategy that we set to go accomplish it, we felt really good, about what we were doing and how we'd get to the finish line today.
and you guys really did a great job in Southern California. I think that might have been overlooked by some of the people that follow me on social media and our website because I spent so much time in Texas because of COVID. But you guys really did just talk about the guys that you did get from Southern California and maybe California and the West Coast in general, because you pretty much got just about most of the guys you really wanted.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think the most obvious one and is Corey Foreman. And from the very start, when you look at this class of 2021, we had to sign Corey Foreman, and that was where our efforts were focused. And we did everything we could as a staff, putting the staff together and putting the plan together and what we needed to accomplish on the field and what we needed to sell Corey in recruiting, and it ended up working out for us. So we feel extremely good about that one. Signing Rajon today was a huge piece of the puzzle as well.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at where those guys were, I mean, one was committed to Clemson and one was committed to LSU, and both signed with USC. It's a pretty big deal for us and for the future of this program, and a big deal for what it means to stay home and stay in Los Angeles, and what signal that sends to every other elite player that we plan to sign in the near future.
Being that I've been covering USC recruiting for almost 20 years now, I was there for the Pete Carroll years, and the excitement level, the way kids would talk about the program, it was just present with everybody, whether they went to USC or not. There was a lot of the momentum that they had was unbelievable, and so there's been some recruiting classes at USC that have been impressive, but I just haven't sensed that the program has been talked about the way that these kids are for maybe the guys that signed, especially at the end of 2021 and even going forward to 2022. I mean, are you guys sensing, obviously, you signed a really impressive recruiting class, but I mean, was the difference in the feedback you were getting as great as it was for me?
Absolutely. And I think it's all a process. If you look at, let's say, January 2020, and this is when that staff, our current staff, came together. Whatever happened previously, it's irrelevant. This is a new staff and really the restart of what we need to do in recruiting. We're bringing in all these, a recruiting support staff around it. And that step and everything after that came in and into this process, it signals what we're trying to accomplish. And everybody in Los Angeles can see it just like you can. And every player that we sign is a signal to the next player. And because the best players want to play with other elite players. And, when you start to pile up those top players in Los Angeles, then you put a fence around the area like we need to.
You briefly mentioned about the football season, and you guys got the 6 games in, and it didn't end as you guys would have wanted to. But I think that a lot of people are missing what you guys you wanted to win all your football games. You wanted to win a Pac-12 title, whatever that was in 2020. But I think you guys got out of this football season actually what you needed to. Those 5 games was what you needed for these guys to see you play football.
Absolutely. I think obviously we wanted to win a championship, and that was our goal, and we came up short. But that doesn't take away everything we did on the field this year, and the way that we played defense, and what Nick Figueroa did, and was leading on our team in sacks, and Talanoa and Isaiah Polamau and Elijah Griffin and Marlon, all those defensive players showing a new defense. Steps forward that Drake London took on offense, Elijah Vera Tucker. We had to show that development. And that's what recruits want to see, is development on the field. How are you going to get me to the NFL? And we had 7 players leave early, and that's the way it should be at USC. That obviously we want those players to stay for us and play another year, because they help us win football games, but we're going to recruit the next ones that leave early as well. If guys are leaving early, that means they're having success on the field, and they're developing and accomplishing their goals and dreams. And it sets the stage for the next player to take it.
There's one player that I just wanted to kind of get some feedback from you that we really don't talk that much about, in Jalen Smith. And he's not really a big social media guy, so he's not like, hey, look at me type of guy.
No doubt.
But he's 17 years old. Didn't he just turn 17 not long ago?
Yeah, he's young.
Here you have a guy who probably would be considered one of the top 5 football players in the class of 2022. Can you just talk about what he's going to add to your football team?
I can't wait to see Jalen out there. Two-way, explosive athlete. And he's just someone that was really hurt along with everybody else in the state by not playing his senior year.
Yeah.
I think he was going to make a huge jump on the field and has a really, really bright future in this game. And, now we have to wait another, 6 months to get him on campus. I wish he was a mid-year so we could see him, right now, but he's got a really bright future as a Trojan.
In talking about how the kids in California were hurt, there was a kid that just, I don't know if he's signed yet with Stanford or not, so we can't really mention a name to be on the safe side. But and obviously Jackson Dart. Those kind of stories couldn't happen in California this year. It's just were there some guys in California that you were looking closely at to see how they did perform this football season, and maybe it would have made a difference for even you guys?
Absolutely. I think there's guys that are right on the cusp of being a USC scholarship caliber player, and guys that are going to pop up on the radar in their senior year. Usually there's not a ton, that they reveal themselves as elite athletes in their sophomore and junior year, but you never know. And it's just unfortunate, for us, our evaluation process never ends at every position. So, we just didn't get that opportunity to continue evaluating California high school athletes and other states on the West Coast as well. And yeah, you look at a guy like Jackson Dart. We weren't familiar with Jackson Dart until he went 14-0 and threw 67 touchdowns his senior year.
Yeah.
We continued that evaluation process and decided that we needed to recruit Jackson Dart and do whatever we could to add him to our roster. And there's players like that just didn't get that opportunity on the West Coast.
I know what you do day to day and what your role is at USC, and there are other extremely talented people that work with you inside. You're not out there coaching, but you guys are vital to this recruiting success for USC. Just what is your role? What is your kind of a day to day? There's probably multiple hats for you, but
yeah, there's a lot of hats that I wear. I think the biggest piece of it is just organization. This process is long. There's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of names involved. There's a lot of activity that goes into signing a class every year. So my job really is just to organize that process and support Coach Helton in any way that I can, from a leadership aspect, from a decision-making aspect, and working with our coaching staff and our recruiting staff on a daily basis on whatever decisions and organizational needs there need to be made.
You also signed. I don't know whether they're all signed or not. I'm not really sure. I haven't been paying close attention, but some transfers,
Yeah.
and two of them are from the University of Texas, and Xavier Alford and Keontae Ingram, and it's just kind of shows to people that here you had some coaches that you had to your staff from the University of Texas that they were let go, but yet Xavier couldn't wait to get to USC to play for Craig Nyber. And here you have Keontae Ingram, who is going to be, again, I'll probably use the word vital. That might be overhyping it, but he's a big part of this football team in 2021. Just what is the process that you guys go through to identify the transfers? Because it's people think it's easy, but it's really not.
It's wild. It's wild. It is the wild west of 2021. The transfer portal is this new element that I had a lot of doubts about and I think people around the country do too. How is this going to change college football? Well, from our perspective, it's here and you have to adapt to it or you're dead. So, whenever we see someone enter the transfer portal, we're immediately starting the evaluation process and what connections and relationships we have with that person. In a situation like those guys from Texas, Coach Nav had a great relationship with Xavier and was able to get it done quickly. You have to be first to the punch usually because when it's positions of need, everybody in the country gets the same notification that I do when someone enters the transfer portal.
Yeah,
they're all doing whatever they can to add said person to the roster.
And identifying some of these football players that you guys bring in, how much do you guys work together? How much are you working with that part of it where you're identifying the talent and evaluating it?
Yeah, it's all part of the process. We have our own structure in place, whether it's through full-time members within our scouting and personnel department, and then we rely on students as well to help us in that area. And then there's different, various recruiting services out there that, help us a bunch, in the identification process. Even, you going on the road on Twitter and sharing, your videos. I mean, that's an identification process for us and plays a big role in the process. So between Twitter, social media, and some various recruiting services and our students and our full-time members, it all goes into our organizational database to identify and evaluate it, with our coaches.
Yeah, I remember Pete Carroll was one time asked about the rankings, and all that kind of stuff. He's like, we don't pay attention to the rankings, but we get names.
Yeah.
And nothing's really changed. There's so many different ways, but people can say, well, we don't like the rankings, whatever. The rankings don't mean anything, but that is a great way to identify names, at least.
And I promise you this. Everybody pays attention to the rankings.
Well, I know our people do.
If they tell you differently, they're wrong. And here's what I'll say about them. I think you have to take the rankings from a personnel standpoint with a grain of salt. You're not going to agree with some. You're going to disagree. But for the most part, I think the rankings do a really good job. I mean, that's proven with the teams that make the playoffs every year are the ones that are consistently highly ranked. So it definitely makes a difference. It's not make or break. We're not making any decisions off the rankings. But for the most part, they do a good job.
I agree. I mean, I know the guys on the West Coast do. I know who's doing the stuff for 24/7 Sports, anyways. Not to toot their horn, but I don't work for anybody, so I can say whatever I want. I know we're getting close to your cutoff time here at 11:10, but just with. I don't know what this class is going to be ranked. I think 6 or something like that, depending on what service you use. Can you identify a few guys that were it was really heartbreaking you didn't get them? Are you able to do that, or does that mean you're playing favorites?
Well, yeah, I'm not going to do that. The school that beat us out.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, but again,
I'll pass on that question.
I know, but I get beat all the time too. But I know I'm working my butt off, and you guys are too. And anyway. Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. Over the years, there have been some guys that you were it was so close. And this year, those guys you were really, really close on. Most of those guys you did get. So, overall, you guys ever sit back and kind of evaluate how you guys did with this recruiting class? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy were you?
Yeah, for me, the value, just like I said with our players, the evaluation process never ends for ourselves as well. You know, we're always going to look at our class as a whole, talk about the guys that we hit on. Why did we earn this signature? You know, what did we do well here? And then the guys that we missed on, you know, what did that other school do better to beat us
Yeah.
out on this player? And then, you know, the class as a whole, and just areas of improvement. You know, that's what football is all about, you know, and coaching is all about. There's always something that you can improve on. And that's, you know, I look at myself in the mirror and then look at our department, and, you know, Coach Helton does the same as our program overall. We're always looking to get better and find ways where we can improve in everything that we do. And then for me, particularly as a recruiting department.
Last question. What did you guys do far better with the 2021 recruiting class than you did with 2020?
I would say overall, you know, our relationship building aspect,
Mhm.
and just being relentless everyday effort as a staff, and from every coach, every recruiting department member. This was our goal. This is what we need to do to accomplish it. And this is how we're going to get the results. And our coaches and Coach Helton and did it. And Dante stepping in with, we know what his skill set is. And they're just you have to be a great relationship builder, and you have to be extremely organized and efficient with your efforts. And that's why we signed a top 10 class, and that's why we plan to continue signing top 10 classes.
Spencer Harris, everybody. Hey, thank you so much, man. Really, really appreciate your time. We'll maybe do a part 2, maybe sometime down the road, maybe March or something like that, to maybe talk about some stuff. Hey, thank you so much, man. Really, really congratulations to you guys. I mean, you guys really did put in a great effort.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right.